Joining me now is our D.C. correspondent, Neil McCabe. You can find him on all socials at Reporter McCabe, wow, how the times have changed. President Donald J. Trump goes to the Department of Justice. The very building and logo behind him today is the building and logo that we've seen for the last 4+ years of them trying to put this man in prison. Today, as the commander-in-chief and the chief executive officer, he went to that building. He stood in front of that logo, and he now begins to, well, fight back against the deep state, the lawfare. A lot of clips to go through with Neil McCabe. Neil, welcome to Brannon Howse Live Prime Time.
Very good to be with you, sir. And this, you're right, this is just an amazing turn of events because, of course, this building is named after Robert F. Kennedy. And Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, has one portrait in her office, and that's of the late Robert F. Kennedy, who, of course, was the Attorney General with his brother Jack Kennedy. And, of course, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was a key supporter of the president, really critical in his building a coalition to win the election 2024. And now he works just up the street at Health and Human Services. And so things do come absolutely full circle. And like you said, it was the Justice Department that pressured the FBI to raid Mar-a-Lago. And everyone remembers, at least Trump supporters, everyone remembers where they were when Mar-a-Lago was raided. I believe that was the real point of psychic damage, right, in this 4-year interregnum. Because when the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago, in full battle rattle with basically their hostage rescue SWAT team, what they were really saying is, we are not afraid of you. It's one of these principles I look for all the time. It's does this person have fear or no fear? And when they raided Mar-a-Lago, they said, we are not afraid of Donald J. Trump, and we are not afraid of his voters. And I guess the subtext was, and if you don't behave, you're next. Because if we can come after him, we can come after you. And now here he is at the Department of Justice, which I guess, just to add on, has always considered itself a private fiefdom, right, with feudal sovereignty, with its own sort of rights and prerogatives to basically do whatever it wanted. And this president is actually trying to integrate the Justice Department into his administration, when frankly, in the first term, the Justice Department was trying to impeach him, throw him in jail. And so there it is, Brandon. What a day.
What a day. Historic day, in fact. Let's go to a couple clips we got here. One more and a couple. We got a few. Here we go. Here's the first one. Those who think they've been pardoned, maybe not so fast, says President Trump.
Crooked Joe Biden got us into a real mess with Russia and everything else he did, frankly, but he didn't know about it, and he, generally speaking, signed it with AutoPen. So how would he know? That AutoPen is a big deal. I don't know. You know, they're having, who's doing this? So when my people come up, Will and all of the people, Steve, they come up and, sir, this is an executive order. They explain it to me, and, 90% of the time I sign it, 99% of the time I say do it. But they come up and I sign it. But you don't use AutoPen. It's, number one, it's disrespectful to the office. Number two, maybe it's not even valid because, who's getting him to sign? He had no idea what the hell he was doing. If he did, all of these bad things wouldn't be happening right now.
Wow. That's, do you want us to wonder if this is actually going to be tried in court? Is an AutoPen a legitimate legal document now?
I think that it is a legitimate discussion to have. When I was a younger man, I was tasked with using the AutoPen at Coast Guard headquarters. Back then, you know how Thomas Jefferson would keep copies of his letters with the two pens that were sort of connected with a stick? So the principle of the original AutoPen is that they would there would be a wooden wheel, and they would cut notches on the inner circle of that ring, and the stick would follow the notches, which would replicate the signature. And so you would go in there, and I worked for one admiral, and other guys worked for other admirals, and you'd basically have to find the admiral's wheel, and then you'd put it on, and you'd sign, promotions or memos or whatever it was. But, it wasn't, we weren't signing pardons, right? We weren't signing executive orders. We weren't signing legislation. And who knows? I mean, I don't know. Young Petty Officer McCabe was not. I guess I could have slipped in some documents or something. I don't know, for the admiral to sign. But in the Biden White House was like the Flying Dutchman. It was a ghost ship, and no one was in charge. But nothing really moved forward for the country because there were so many different factions at war with each other. And I imagine that the fight for the auto pen must have been quite the battle inside. I'm waiting for some news. Like, some people have to come clean. Maybe we have to offer them immunity. Maybe we have to offer them pardons, or maybe we just have to bribe them, because frankly, we didn't really break the FBI. We didn't really break the mafia until we allowed the FBI to buy people off. And so maybe that's what we have to do. We just have to, either public funds or some wealthy individual will just buy off some of these Democrats and to tell us what really happened.
Yeah, indeed. All right, here's President Trump at the Justice Department on those 51, I guess it is, intelligence officers on the Hunter Biden laptop. Here we go.
That's why on day one, I signed an executive order banning all government censorship and directing the removal of every bureaucrat who conspired to attack free speech and many other things and values in America. My administration stripped the security clearances of the disgraced intelligence agents who lied about Hunter Biden's laptop from hell. We revoked the clearances of deranged Jack Smith, Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, and the crooked law firms that aided their partisan persecutions. And I went through it. These are state and city courts, and the corruption is unbelievable. We also terminated the clearances of the Biden crime family and Joe Biden himself. He didn't deserve it. In fact, he was essentially found guilty, but they said he was incompetent, and therefore let's not find him guilty, I guess. Nobody knows what that ruling was, but I didn't want any part of it. I think I would have rather been found guilty than what they found with him. They said he didn't know what the hell he was doing, and therefore he's let him go. I said, I'd rather be convicted, Pam, I think, than that. That was not, I said, please convict me, don't say that. I pardoned hundreds of political prisoners who had been grossly mistreated. We removed the senior FBI officials who misdirected resources to send SWAT teams after grandmothers and J6 hostages. And it was a great honor for me to fire, I will tell you this, a great honor to fire James Comey. A great, great honor. That was nothing. There was no better day. A lot of people said, oh, that's too bad you did that. And they said that's going to be, and you know what? A year later, they said that actually saved the administration, because the level of corrupt things that we learned after that turned out to be that they were doing, in fact, really bad things. He was a terrible person, did terrible things, and persecuted people, and all in the guise of being an angel, but he wasn't an angel.
Wow, there you go. Neil?
Yeah, well, James Comey was a horrible human being. I mean, just talking about James Comey, Trump really reached out to him. Trump, tried to make it work, but Comey was filthy. And of course, there was that famous January 5th meeting in the Oval Office with intelligence leaders and Barack Obama and Biden. This is like, a week and a half before Trump was sworn in for the first term. And basically they all conspired and said, how are we going to undermine Trump? And so, Trump basically tried to work with Comey. Comey went with him with the Steele dossier and said, listen, we know about this and we have it under control, but I just wanted to let you know that this thing exists. What Comey was really saying is, we have compromising material on you, and if you fool around with the FBI, we will release this material. That was the message. Trump tried to work with him. In fact, Trump had 3 private dinners with Comey at the White House in an attempt to get to know the guy and build a relationship with him, who he frankly inherited. And what Comey did was every night after he left the White House, he typed up his notes and gave them to a law professor friend of his so that they could use what they could to set up Trump for a special prosecutor the whole time. And then we find out that Comey was sending honeypots, these female agents, in undercover into the Trump campaign to try to get dirt, to try to frame people up. It's just nasty. And of course, these guys who lied about the Hunter Biden laptop, it certainly affected the election. That if the Hunter Biden laptop had become part of the public record 2 weeks before the election, of course it would have had an effect, and it would have torpedoed Biden's campaign. And so they smashed it to bits. All of its credibility, they suppressed it and everything else. It is interesting that he's going to the Justice Department and really telling the Justice Department, this is everything that you did, and I know it. And I think his message was, I want to work with you moving forward. And I just wonder how that bureaucracy is going to take it, Brannon.
Yeah. And how much of that bureaucracy has walked out the door? It's not even there, right?
Well, and that's great. I mean, because we were trying to figure out, how do we get rid of these people? And then they leave. It's, don't let the door hit you on the tuchus, as we say.
That's exactly right. Let's see. What does Pam Bondi have to say today? I think she's big on fighting drugs. Here we go.
On stage, we have, this is 180 kilograms. It represents, not real, of fentanyl. Okay. So this represents 1 kilo of fentanyl. In its pure form, this 1 kilo can kill 500,000 people. The 180 there, in pure form, could kill 90 million people. That is the population of California, Texas, and Florida. That's what we're dealing with in our country. That's why angel moms go around the country. That's why Donald Trump has taken such a hard stance against cartels, securing our borders, getting these gangs and drugs out of our country. But look at that. That can kill 3 states in its pure form. That should terrify everyone. I see our senators made it. Did our senators? Thank you.
Well, there you go. They're waging war in the drug cartel. And last night we had Todd Bensman on. We really had an exclusive footage here from him over in Mexico. He was embedded with the military. He'd never really gotten this before. He asked, they're like, are you kidding? They called him back immediately. They wanted him embedded with the military in Mexico to take him up what they called bulldozer trail or something. But they've bulldozed a hill. They've bulldozed a hill right into the mountains where the military can get in there and watch. And they wanted this American journalist, Todd Bensman, who regularly reports with us, was in our studio in February, embedded to get the story out to show the Trump administration we're doing this because Trump's saying, if you don't do this and cut down on fentanyl flowing into the country, we're going to have these tariffs. So this administration is not fooling around, apparently, when it comes to drugs.
No, not at all. And I would look for strikes, military strikes against these fentanyl factories and warehouses and truck convoys. The ambassador to Mexico has already hinted at it. We already, when you go online and you see some of these open source intelligence websites, these people who track military and spy planes as they're flying around, the spy planes and the military reconnaissance planes have been basically mapping Mexico and doing their targeting. And this is something that was never done before. Even in the first Trump administration, they didn't really have the planes flying over Mexico like they are now. In the first Trump administration, Trump was trying to sort of fit in. Trump was trying to be a regular president. He was trying to go along to get along. Obviously, he had an agenda, but he just wanted to get along with Washington. He's a guy from New York, and he wanted to, do what he was supposed to do, and he wanted to be a regular president like everybody else. But Washington was not going to let it happen. And so the people in Washington, they waited like snakes in the grass, and every time they had an opportunity, they struck him with poison. And now, over and over again, Brannon, this is an example of something that would have never happened in the first term, and it would have never happened in the second term if that second term began with a re-election in 2020. It's only because of 4 years of exile and all of the things that they did to him that basically hardened his resolve, but also educated him and educated all the MAGA people about the true power of the federal government, because they saw that true power exercised against them. And so now we have the keys, and get ready. And here it comes, Brannon.
Yeah, and here it comes. All right, let's see what else we got here. I think we had a little something here from Kash Patel himself. Here we go. See what Kash Patel had to say.
The most special rooms in the halls of justice, and it really is a unique experience to be able to be a part of the team that is delivering a singular system of justice for the American people, with a complete and total annihilation of the weaponization of justice and the politicization of intelligence. We have a new FBI, and I'm humbled and honored to be its leader. We have a courageous Attorney General in General Pam Bondi. We have incredible leaders throughout our law enforcement community, whether it be at the FBI, the DEA, HSI, CBP, ATF, and the list goes on. I've been privileged to meet so many of them in my first month on board here. I look around and I see state attorneys generals that have been doing the work hand in glove with local, state, and federal law enforcement. And our mission, and my mission specifically, is to tell you what we've been doing in this first month. And I told you when I got this job that we would crush violent crime, that we would take the fight to anyone who wishes to do harm to our way of life and to hurt our citizenry, that we would go to the ends of the earth to bring them back to face American justice produced right here in this very hall, in this very building. To that effort, we have done just that. And a special shout out, I know my Boston contingent is here on St. Paddy's Day. Thank you for the great work you guys have been doing, and across the rest of the FBI. But right here in Virginia, or across the river in Virginia, the FBI stood up an interagency task force at our Manassas office, and in just 2.5 short weeks, we have arrested over 300 violent felonies gang members, including MS-13 and 18 gangsters. We have taken seizure of hundreds of pounds of narcotics and hundreds of weapons and currency and illicit goods. That's just what you can do when you put the brave men and women of law enforcement in one room and get the hell out of their way. And we are going to do that in every state across this country. In Massachusetts alone, in the last couple of weeks, they have indicted federally over 50 violent gang members and narco traffickers, seizing almost 200 kilograms of fentanyl. There is no time for us to waste on this job, and that's why under President Trump's leadership and General Bondi's leadership, we've been instructed to get after it. And that's exactly what we are doing. We have to especially get after it when we lose an American citizen every 7 minutes to a drug overdose. We have to especially get after it when a man or child is, a woman or child is raped in this country nearly every 6 minutes. And we have to especially get after it when there are 2 homicides nearly every hour in this country. Violent crime is exploding, and it is a direct result of the border invasion that occurred. But thanks to this administration, and thanks to your relentless work on the field of battle to protect our citizenry, we are finally curbing those astronomical numbers. And what that means is we are saving American lives. We are providing our children with safe schools and playgrounds so that they can be educated and grow up in a fun neighborhood like we all had the privilege.
There you go. All right. So that's a great report. And then there's more to it. But for the sake of time, we're going to cut it short. You know, there's a lot of criticism. Yeah, indeed. There's a lot of criticism on social media right now of Pam Bondi. And I would just say to those people, okay, you guys need to, and you know, they're free. It's a free country. They can post what they want. I would simply say right now, give the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, a chance to get in, to figure out where everything is, to read files, to build cases, to build her staff. Give her a chance, okay? I know people want action now, but it takes time to build these cases, but you first have to build your staff around you. So I would say if she's been on the job for 6 months and you don't see enough progress, say something then. But for Pete's sake, give the Attorney General Pam Bondi at least 6 months to get into the job and build the cases. Because I think there's probably things going on behind the scenes she can't talk about, will not talk about, but things are going on behind the scenes. Agree or disagree?
I absolutely agree. And I'd say, that I live off of work I really did 6 months ago. And so, you have, they're coming in. I think right now what you're going to see is there's a lot of investigations and a lot of opportunities that the Biden administration was suppressing and ignoring. And so people are coming up to them and they're saying to Kash Patel and they're saying to Pam Bondi, hey, what about this? We know about these gangs in Manassas. Nobody wants to do anything. Can you just let us loose? But over time, what you're going to see is the product of Pam Bondi's leadership as 6 months from now, when she has her staff and her programs and her projects in place. Anybody who's familiar with her tenure as the Attorney General in Florida, or her when she was an attorney for President Trump during the first impeachment, or any of her advocacy for different issues, they know that this is a smart, tough woman, and people who work for her, they adore her, and they will walk through fire for her. And she doesn't have to worry about Kash Patel undermining her, because in this Trump administration, everyone is lined up with the MAGA agenda, and they're all moving forward together, Brannon.
Now, we have footage here. The guys in the control room are pointing out. As we know, the relationship between Elon and President Trump seems to be getting deeper, and we see him flying on Marine One last week and Air Force One. The relationship between Little X and President Trump seems to be getting deeper. Here's the footage here's the footage we have tonight, folks. This is hilarious. Look at him. That's the second time he's put his hand on his shoulder. Let's go. All right, come on. That's a great picture there. Here we go. Give me your hand. Let's go. That's good stuff there. Whoa! Okay, it's one of the first times I've never seen President Trump salute, but he was very busy. He was very busy trying to get Elon on the plane. And now comes Elon. Little X got to go through the front door. That's normally reserved for the president and his immediate family members. If I'm correct, staff exits in the rear. Little X went through the front door in front of the president with the color guard. Pretty cool.
Oh, it's great when he picked him up to get on the steps. How do you hate this guy? How do you hate this guy?
I know.
Like, who watches Trump with that little boy, and then he picks up the boy, puts him on the steps?
Oops, sorry, that was mine. Yep.
Like, who watches this video and says, I must stop him? I will not rest until he is destroyed. Who thinks like that? It's
Exactly.
bonkers.
Yeah.
Bonkers.
Yeah, it is. Oh, wow. All right, one of these days we have to play the video footage of George W. Bush coming off Marine One and waving at my daughter, who was like 4 years old at the time, and he does one of these circle waves to her, and then walks right up to us, and we visited with him, and she was quite intrigued by him. They landed on this big helicopter, and he gathered to get a picture with us, and we got a tour of the Oval Office in the West Wing later that night. But he's like, we're going to get a picture, and everybody turns around. The two, my oldest son, Logan, was in Melissa's arms. He was, I don't know how old he was, 6 months old or whatever. But my little 3 or 4-year-old, she would not turn around. President Bush is looking forward. We're all looking forward. My little daughter, all she had is her back to the camera, staring up at him like, who is this man? He just flew in on his lawn on a helicopter. We had to coax her to turn around to quit staring up at him. One of the pictures we have is President Bush staring down at her and her staring up at him, and it was pretty cute. But yeah, the interaction of presidents with children, pretty famous, right?
Oh, it's great. And of course, everyone remembers Jack Kennedy with the kids hiding under the desk and playing in the Oval Office. And it was great. It was great politically, too, frankly. Yeah. It's good stuff. Good stuff.
Good stuff. All right, let's see. I guess that's about it. I wanted to at least bring you on because those are all making big news tonight. And I just think it's very historic because that DOJ is the one that literally tried to put him in prison. And now, yep. I do have one more. Okay, here's that congressman, the dude that thinks he's a woman. Listen to this.
We will not take a lecture on decorum from a party that incited an insurrection. I appear to live rent-free in the minds of some of my Republican colleagues. I wish that they would spend even a fraction of the time that they spend thinking about me, thinking about how to lower the costs for American families. I wish they would spend a fraction of the time that they spend thinking about me, figuring out how to make government actually work better, rather than making it work worse in order to prove that government can't work. They are obsessed with culture war issues. The Republican Party is obsessed with culture war issues. It is weird and it is bizarre.
Whoa. He wants to call someone weird and bizarre? Are you serious? That is really
American
odd.
People deserve serious.
And I have to just ask real quick: are these people? Are these two trying to look like twins? Is this like the?
I was going to ask. Are these the other transgender in Congress?
I have to wonder. And if they aren't, can you seriously tell me that woman standing back there behind her in the blue? Okay, I was just watching her face. I would love to know what she's really thinking because. Here's what I think she's really thinking. Lord, thank you so much that my son never grew up to think he's a girl and act like this. I mean, I'm just wondering, is that what she's saying? Because I can't imagine, and I don't even know if that woman behind her is married and has a child. I have no idea. But can you imagine any sane mother wishing or thinking that, this is a good thing? I'm glad, or that they would want their son to do this? I don't think so.
I think she's thinking about all of the compromises and betrayals to her upbringing that she's had to make to be a successful politician in the Democratic Party. And all of these Democrats are basically, they have to sell out the values they were raised with. They have to sell out the communities and the hardworking people who are in their communities. And then they have to stand with this freak. And of course, House Democrats are just woefully out of step because they all geeked up to vote against the continuing resolution. And then the Senate Democrats were like, yeah, thanks for that. But actually, we're not going to die on this hill. So you can it's like we received your invitation to the Alamo and we will decline.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Logan, you want to show that, Logan? All right, here it is. We've never shown this footage on camera before. Here it is. I think this is 2003, September 2003. So here we go. So my daughter was born in January of 2003, so she would be 3. Okay, so here we go. Marine One lands. Let's watch what happens, Logan. Here we go.
So come out the front, okay?
I'm trying to tell the kids he'll come out the front because this thing, as you know, Neil, you've been there. This is loud. And so, and the jets are still running. The engines on thing are still, blades stop, but it's still running. So I'm trying to prep the kids. There he is.
Wave hard.
Now we thought the White House staff actually pulled us over to the left and made us stick out, saying to us, "Can we use your kids as bait?" Laura waved at them. Now watch President Bush with his little circle wave to our daughter. There you go. There's a circle wave. He's coming right over to her, but he's going to hit another guy to our left first. But the White House staff said, "Can we look at?" He's pointing at my daughter. Can we use your kids and you for the? They do that circle wave at her again just then. Can we use your family to draw him over? If he sees your family with these little kids, I think he'll come right over. And indeed he did. All right, so we're telling the kids, turn around. And you just saw the lady that's taking the picture. She's a White House staffer.
I know you're so excited. Turn around.
And I'm saying, our daughter's so excited. Turn around.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Great family. God bless you.
Great family, he said. If you guys go to Worldview Tube, go to worldviewtube.com real quick. That's the first time we've ever shown that. We've had it for a while, but we've never had a chance to show it. Go to Worldview Tube. And then we went out and had dinner and came back in and went to, got a private tour of the Oval Office in the West Wing from a research project I had been working on for the Office of Faith-Based Ministries. But I think somewhere in here, Logan, don't we have that picture where the one that just got taken? It should be in here of the whole family with him. If it's not in here, it's going to have to get in here. There it is. There it is. Look at it. There it is. Now, we should put the other one up there because the other one is her, my little daughter, staring straight up at him and him staring down at her. And we were working to get her to quit looking at him. She didn't want to turn her back to him. She was so impressed this guy can land a helicopter on his front lawn. So there you go. There you go, Neil.
That's a great shot. And W wasn't a bad guy.
No.
Of course, you did miss the opportunity to berate him about the Patriot Act, but I guess maybe decorum and protocol.
We were just honored to be there. I'll tell you, here's another picture. Look at that one. That one, there's Logan. There's Logan grabbing onto then Congressman Thune. Congressman Thune's tie.
Wow.
And Congressman Thune, that was in September of 2003. And March of 2004, he came and spoke at my Worldview Weekend in Sioux Falls while he's running for the U.S. Senate. And that's Logan holding on to his tie, who's now the Vice President of Operations. And
of course,
crazy.
So, of course, the first aide coming off that Marine One, I'm pretty sure is Scott Jennings, who's now with CNN. And I'm pretty sure that was Scott Jennings.
Really?
But,
can you do a back on that, Logan?
Thune, and then
notice that you recognize
Thune,
that. That's pretty impressive.
And Thune is a gorgeous man even to this day. But back then, and of course, his wife was a beauty queen. And so the two of them were just like the most gorgeous political couple ever. Let's see.
You're going to let it roll and then pause, Logan? See what happens? Boom. Is that him?
Was that Scott Jennings?
So at one time, he was an aide for George W.
Stop. What do you think?
I don't know.
Well, you could roll with it instead of just leaving me hanging like that, Brannon. You could say you're absolutely right, Neil.
Well, you could be absolutely right, Neil. You could be. I just don't. But that's the funny thing about pictures. Actually, we have some footage going in and out of the White House. I had the camera that's in my hand right here. The camera that's in my hand right there. I had that rolling a lot while we were in there. And when I saw this a few months ago, Logan pulled all this off. High 8. Yeah. When I'm seeing all these staffers and stuff, I thought, who are these people now? Where are they now?
Oh, yeah.
So you make a very good point, because I'm thinking some of these people have to have risen up in the administration. Now, do you recognize any of those guys with President Bush?
No, I'm guessing those are donors.
I'm thinking so too. A lot of them some of those were with Thune.
Okay, so Thune probably was having an event in D.C., and part of his fundraising, basically part of his Senate campaign fundraising, was that we're going to have a big dinner tonight, and the VIPs can come hang out with me at the White House.
There you go. Now, I'm not saying those guys were, but you can keep rolling some of that, Logan. But
I'm just guessing.
But no, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't know if those guys were with Thune, but Thune had a coalition with him. Congressman Thune had a group around him.
Thune was an amazing conservative congressman, and in his first 2 or 3 years as a senator, he was just absolutely remarkable. And then he decided to take the leadership track, and and so he became, frankly, the problem for many years. But and then with McConnell fading into the horizon, it's now we're seeing Thune. I think Thune is returning to his default setting, or his factory is that factory reset, and he's now a conservative again.
Yeah.
But it bothers me that George W. Bush has found himself like locked in as an anti-Trump guy, because he was a good-spirited guy. He was a generous man. I served under him in the military, and I was always thrilled that he was my commander in chief. I thought, he cared about us, and he certainly devoted a lot of his time as an ex-president to wounded warriors and veterans charities. But now he finds himself where he can't even go to a Republican convention. It's too bad.
Yeah, it is too bad. Logan, go back to before the Marine One landed, and let's show the footage where I think that day there were like five Marine Ones, maybe 4.
Really?
Yeah, you remember we're 2003, so we're just 2 years off of 9/11. This was September.
Okay, so normally
This was September
normally they fly
2003.
3.
Yep.
So normally they fly 3 to confuse the terrorists. So they were flying 5.
4 to
So you didn't
5
know
that
which
day.
was which.
Yeah, 4 to
Wow.
5 there that day. There was a lot because the staffers were telling us how many. I don't know if we can get a count, but pull the audio up. You'll hear them. Logan? There you go. Now, then we started seeing all the SWAT guys come out of the trees and all around the place to get ready. But the staff told us, they were like, now your kids might get a little afraid because you can hear them now. Here they come.
Yeah, the photographers always tell me this is the best place to be because they have fresh film. It's right on the end. There's the White House in the background.
It's gonna make a lot of noise, guys.
The White House will try to call it.
That is so cool.
So that one buzzes off.
If he does come over, hand me your camera, and when he comes over, just quickly turn
Now the staffer's saying when he comes out, hand me your camera. So I'm being distracted, but there was more than 3 that day. There's another one right there. I want to say there was 4 or 5 of them that day. There was a lot, and the staffers are telling us how that these are going to pull off, and then we don't know which one will land. They're all decoys. You've been there for how many of these, Neil?
Oh, tons of them. And so people understand that they call this the arrival and departure ceremonies. With Trump, they really became really a function of his presidency's messaging, because these gaggles, a lot of times with these gaggles, nothing ever happens. With a Biden, or even you saw with W, he had to, his staffers had to sort of bait him over there. One of the disappointments, I think, if the White House reporters were honest, is that Biden didn't spend as much time. And of course, now we know why, because his brain had become bread pudding. And so, they basically had to guide him around, and he didn't know what he was saying or whatnot. But Trump loves these gaggles. And its other interesting thing is Sam Donaldson made a career for himself as the reporter who would yell questions at Reagan.
That's right.
And it got to the point where Reagan was so tired of it that they decided to turn on the jet engines before Reagan walked out. And then there's all those like, exactly. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fun stuff. Well, it is pretty remarkable. If anyone ever has a chance to be there, and American citizens, maybe people are asking, well, I don't know, how do you do that, Brannon? Well, it's oftentimes a matter of who you know, or your congressman, your senator, or like in our case, I did a project for the White House Office of Faith-Based Ministries, and they invited me over. They said, next time you're in D.C., come on over. We'll see if we can get you to the rope line. And it turned into a tour of the West Wing and Oval Office later that night. And but I mean, a lot of real everyday Americans can make the way to the rope line. I can't explain fully how, but they do it all the time, don't they?
Yeah, and what you have is you have this, at least with Trump, you have one section closer to the Rose Garden, which is your reporters, and then you have another section, which is staffers and other people, just to sort of fill the crowd. But it's an amazing event. You never forget it, and the rush when the White House reporters realize that the helicopter is coming, it's like Santa Claus is coming to town. It's like there's just this buzz in the press room, and everyone's so excited that they have to be out there. And I remember having a conversation with somebody, and this woman looked at me like I was insane. She says, "Don't you know there's a departure? Like, why are you even talking to me, you moron? We have to get outside for the helicopter." And so, yeah, and of course, that for people who want to sort of figure out the geography of the White House, that's the South Lawn, and he walks out in that sort of colonnade walkway.
Portico.
Leads, yeah, that's where the back door to the Oval Office has a back door outside, and then of course that's the Rose Garden that of course is made famous by Jackie Kennedy, and
yes.
so that's not the front side that we normally see with Andrew Jackson. So you'd be right under sort of that porch that was built by Harry Truman. That's fantastic.
That's the Oval Office lights behind us, and that's the Rose Garden.
Oh, you must have been over the moon that day.
We absolutely were. Particularly 2 years. Literally, this was like September. I'll tell you what the date was. There it is. It's in the picture. It's September 9th, 2003. So we're just a little more than 2 years from 9/11, right? So
right.
With all that had been going on in our country, yeah, absolutely we were.
So that would have been 6 months into the liberation of Iraq. That would have been, 10 months into the combat in Afghanistan. And the war in Iraq had already started to turn by that point because, when I deployed, I was a combat historian. So I would talk to people about their previous deployments rather. And so I was talking to people 2009, 2010, but so many of them, this was like their third deployment. And so when I talked to people who were there in 2003 and 2004, they would say like it was kind of the insurgency was sporadic, but it was starting. And it didn't really blow up until February of 2004 was the Sunni uprising against the Shia. And then in April of 2004 was the Shia uprising in Sadr City in Baghdad. And that's really when the wheels came off the cart. So in September of 2003, we didn't really know that we were in the middle of this heinous long war. The thinking then was, all right, let's tie this bow and get out. It was a weird time. It was a wonderfully naive time because we didn't know what we were looking at then.
Wow. What a kind of a fun night of, walking down memory lane. I will say this as we get ready to wrap, Neil. We're getting footage. We're getting footage out of Kansas. We're in for some bad weather this weekend, even here in the Mid-South. But here's a bunch of semi-trucks earlier this afternoon taking shelter. I guess at one point they'd shut down the interstates. I don't know if this is a storm coming through, Logan, or what, but I think obviously it looks like it is. Or, I'm assuming it's a storm. But we're in the bullseye, are we not, for this weekend, Logan? Yeah, I think we are too. So I don't know what this is all about, or maybe that's fires. I don't know, but what is it, Logan? You know? This one, is it, okay, which one's a, so it is storms. You're going to show us one? But we're in for some storms this weekend. Whoa.
Whoa.
That was today, March 14th.
Good
Whoa.
night, Irene. Wow. That's some wind. Right, because even though these trucks are so heavy, you know, because they're so high, those things are like sails, you know, catching all that wind.
Yep, and I just read the description of what I showed you guys, and they were saying that's what it was. It was these semi-trucks trying to stay upright, 80-mile-an-hour winds. And, man.
Wow.
Look at this, guys. This is in Canyon, Texas. Take a look at this.
Here on I-27, you can start to see how catastrophic this dust storm is for drivers. And the reason, if it's forecast to have heavy winds,
Look at that. Well, I guess we need to be saying some prayers tonight, huh? And yeah, we're going to do our best to stay up and online, but there's storms coming through this 70 to 80 mile an hour winds, the reporter says.
Wow. Of course, it was last week or so, there was an Orlando, Florida TV station, and as the weatherman is telling people about the tornado hit the TV station.
Wow. Yeah.
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 No joke.
No, it's not. Let me see if I got any more if I let you go. But they are, but they're talking about, this is downtown Dallas. Look at the dust storm, downtown Dallas. And they're talking about, again, a lot of tough weather this weekend, so we'll keep you posted. All right, Neil, I wanted to bring you in on prime time. I didn't know that was going to go all these places, but you're good at it, and we love having you on board, my friend.
Any excuse to say hello. Happy to do it, sir.
You too. Neil McCabe checking in, my friends, as we...
Reporter McCabe on all socials.
At Reporter McCabe. At Reporter McCabe on all socials. Look at this storm chaser here. He's saying visibility is 0, 50-plus cars like this.
Kirk Michael, truck driver, currently on I-27 on the shoulder here, and we're riding out this dust storm here in Canyon, Texas. Behind me, there's about a mile plus of wreckage. What would you say, 50 plus?
I would say 50 plus.
50 plus vehicles.
A few fatalities, unfortunately.
Yeah. Horrible, horrible road conditions. If you don't have a reason to be on the roads, please do not be on them.
I'm just glad they closed this.
Yeah, they've closed I-27 all the way down to Lubbock and all the way into Amarillo and points northward.
Let me tell you something, folks. A whole new level of respect for America's truckers came to me when in 2003, June of 2003, we bought our first motor coach and started traveling the country and doing Worldview Weekends by Motor Coach. And we did years of that, years and years and years. And so many of you that are regulars have seen our motor coach in person and seen it parked out front. We drove that thing all over the country. When we went to DC, we were doing an event in DC, outside of DC in Arlington, or Springfield, Virginia, and our dogs were back in our motor coach, and our rental car we were using was parked next to it, and that's how we got into downtown DC. We left the motor coach where we were and went into DC, and we went all over the country in that motor coach. And I'll tell you something, I got a whole new level of respect for tractor trailer drivers after getting a motor coach, because you realize now people run in front of you, slam your brakes on like you can stop in 2 feet. You can't. The winds, like go to that footage of the trucks tipping over. I'll tell you, folks, I have pulled over driving a motor coach because of that right there. Because the winds were so strong, I thought we would flip. That I thought we would. I couldn't keep it between the mustard and the mayonnaise, the yellow line and the white line. So I had a whole new level for truck drivers after driving a motor coach, and anyone that does it knows what I'm talking about. So give those guys a pass, be gracious, because it takes a lot of skill to drive those things, and people aren't helping you when they move in front of you and slam their brakes on, thinking you can stop like a car, because you can't. And we could tell the difference. When we were loaded down for a conference, and I mean, I'm talking perhaps thousands of pounds underneath our motor coach of product, books, DVDs. You guys know how heavy books are. Cases and cases of books and DVDs, and then all the other things, the backdrops and all the other stuff that we were due for setting up our platforms and staging and exhibit booth and running a whole conference from city to city, thousands of pounds. So when that thing was loaded, it drove totally different than when it was empty and just us in it versus all the gear that we were traveling with. So yeah, those become very, very difficult to stop on a day where you're empty, much less when you're loaded down and moving fast. But whole new level of respect for America's truckers. There you go. All right, say some prayers, and we'll try to make it through the weekend. Lord willing, I'll be back Sunday night, 8 p.m. Central, right here as I continue my study on the book of Revelation, Revelation chapter 13, where the false prophet sets up the image in the temple of a beast, an image, and gives life to it, breath to it. It speaks words of blasphemy. We'll get into that tonight. Hey, before we conclude, again, if you appreciate all we're doing, we do need your support. I really do push that foundation hard, folks, because I'll tell you why. WorldviewFoundation.com is one of the best ways that you can support us. It really is. So please, go ahead and go to that, worldviewfoundation.com. And I guess we have news, of course, the shutdown averted after Schumer caves and backs Trump's spending bill. So I guess there's not going to be a government shutdown, so that's good news as well. So there you go. But we do need your support, folks. Worldviewfoundation.com. Look at all the long format interviews we did tonight with no commercial breaks. Do you like that format? You want to keep it going like that? We can. If you go to worldviewfoundation.com and make a contribution, please consider signing up for a monthly contribution. Hey, if you're making a monthly contribution, maybe consider increasing it. Some of you are doing that. My wife said there's a lot of people calling in and upping their monthly contributions. I'm like, are you kidding? She's like, no. They want to up their contribution. So thank you to all of you who give, and thank you to all of you who are giving more. You're actually upping your contributions. So thank you for that. All right. So thank you for your support. All right. Worldviewfoundation.com. Worldviewfoundation.com. Roll the music, boys. Let's call it a night. Dolly, do you want to come over and say goodnight? You've been so quiet tonight. You're waking up from a nap, stretching. Oh, you're stretching. Come here. You had a busy day, didn't you? What'd you do today? I went outside, came back in, went outside, came back in a little bit, took a nap. Been a busy day, hasn't it? All right, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Have a great weekend, guys. May God save America. Take care.